The Grand Meridian Hotel ballroom glowed beneath cascading chandeliers, their golden light reflecting off polished glass tables and silver decorations. Soft jazz music drifted through the air while servers moved gracefully between clusters of executives holding champagne flutes and rehearsed smiles. It was the company's annual celebration, an evening meant to reward success, strengthen connections, and remind everyone who held power. I stood near the back of the room, adjusting my jacket as I watched my wife, Sarah, across the crowd. She looked confident, radiant even, dressed in a simple black gown that somehow made her stand out among dozens of perfectly styled professionals. She laughed politely at a colleague's joke, her posture straight but relaxed, the way she always carried herself when trying to appear completely in control. I felt proud watching her. Sarah had earned every inch of her success through late nights, endless deadlines, and sacrifices most people never saw. Tonight was supposed to celebrate that. But then the atmosphere shifted. Daniel Brooks entered the conversation circle like he owned the air everyone breathed. Conversation subtly paused as people acknowledged him, the senior director, the decision maker, the man whose approval could accelerate or destroy careers overnight. He smiled confidently, placing a hand on one employee's shoulder before turning his attention toward Sarah. At first, nothing seemed unusual. He leaned closer, speaking with exaggerated warmth. Sarah nodded politely, her professional smile firmly in place. From a distance, it looked like ordinary workplace networking. Then his hand moved. Slowly, casually, it rested on the small of her back. I frowned. Maybe it was accidental, I told myself. Maybe I was overreacting. Corporate events were crowded, people stood close. But his hand didn't move away. Instead, his fingers pressed slightly, guiding her closer as he spoke into her ear. Sarah's smile faltered for just a second, so quick most people wouldn't notice. I did. Her shoulders stiffened. She shifted her weight, subtly trying to create space. Daniel leaned in again, laughing at something only he found amusing. My grip tightened around my glass. Across the room, our eyes met. Sarah's expression changed instantly, relief mixed with discomfort. She gave me a small, forced smile, the kind that silently says I'm okay, but I want to leave. Daniel's hand slid away only when another executive approached them. Sarah stepped back immediately, crossing her arms for a moment before composing herself again. The music continued, people laughed, glasses clinked, but for me, the celebration was already over. Because in that single moment, I understood something clearly. What looked normal to everyone else, wasn't normal at all. And whatever had just happened was only the beginning. The city lights slipped past the windshield in long golden streaks, but inside the car there was only silence. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like something important is waiting to be said. Sarah stared out the passenger window, her arms folded loosely in her lap. Normally after events like this she would talk about everything, the awkward speeches, the office gossip, the strange conversations with coworkers. Tonight she said nothing. I kept my eyes on the road for a while, trying to convince myself I had imagined the moment with Daniel Brooks. Maybe it had looked worse from across the room. Maybe Sarah hadn't even noticed. But the way she sat there, quiet, distant, told me otherwise. Finally, I spoke. Did something happen tonight? She turned slightly toward me but didn't answer right away. Her eyes dropped to her hands as if she were deciding how much to say. It was nothing, she said softly after a moment. Just office, politics. I didn't believe that for a second. Sarah, I said gently, I saw him. Her shoulders stiffened. For a few seconds, the only sound in the car was the hum of the engine. Then she exhaled slowly, like someone letting go of something they'd been holding in for too long. He's been doing this for months, she admitted quietly. My stomach tightened. What do you mean doing this? She looked back out the window before answering. Making comments, standing too close, touching my arm when he talks. Always when no one is paying attention. The steering wheel felt suddenly heavier in my hands. Tonight, she continued, he said my promotion is coming up in the next quarter. Her voice grew smaller. Then he leaned closer and said it could happen faster if I was cooperative. Rage burned through my chest. What exactly did he do? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Sarah hesitated. When people were leaving the ballroom, he stopped me near the hallway, she said. He put his hand on my back again, lower this time. Her words came slowly now, like they were difficult to push out. He said I should come to his office sometime so we could discuss my future. The meaning behind those words was painfully obvious. I pulled into our driveway and turned off the engine, but neither of us moved. Sarah finally looked at me, her expression tired and embarrassed. I didn't want to make a scene, she said quietly. Everyone respects him there. If I accuse him of something like that, it could ruin my career. Her voice cracked slightly. And the worst part, she added, what? I've heard he's done this to other women before. The anger inside me sharpened into something colder. Because suddenly I understood something very clearly. Daniel Brooks wasn't just crossing a line. He had been getting away with it for a long time. Long after Sarah had gone to bed, sleep refused to come to me. The house was quiet except for the faint ticking of the wall clock and the distant hum of passing cars outside. I sat alone at the dining table with my laptop open, the blue glow of the screen lighting the dark room. Sarah's words kept repeating in my head. He's been doing this for months. He's done this to other women. The thought made my jaw tighten. If Daniel Brooks had really been abusing his position like that, someone had to know. People didn't just wake up one day and start behaving that way. Patterns left traces, and tonight, I intended to find them. I started with the simplest place, public information. Search engines, corporate websites, business articles mentioning the company and its leadership team. Daniel Brooks appeared everywhere. Smiling in photos, shaking hands with executives, speaking at conferences about leadership and workplace culture. The hypocrisy made my stomach twist. Next, I checked professional networking sites and old employee discussions. Buried beneath years of company praise were scattered complaints, short, vague comments from former workers. Toxic leadership environment. HR protects the wrong people. Some managers abuse their power. None of the posts mentioned Daniel by name. But the timing of them, the department, the descriptions. It didn't feel like coincidence. I dug deeper, scrolling through employee review forums and archived posts. After nearly an hour of searching, one comment caught my attention. It was 2 years old. The writer claimed she had reported inappropriate behavior from a senior director and was forced to resign shortly afterward. The company response beneath it was cold and official, stating that all internal complaints had been handled appropriately. Something about the post felt unfinished, like someone had been silenced. Luckily, the user had left a first name, Emily. I searched again until I found a former employee profile that matched the department and timeline. Her account was mostly inactive now, but the messaging option was still open. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment. This could be nothing, or it could be exactly what I was looking for. Finally, I typed a short message. Hi Emily, I know this may sound strange, but I think the same person who caused problems for you may still be doing it. My wife works in that department. If you're willing to talk, I'd really appreciate it. I clicked send. Then I leaned back, staring at the screen in the quiet room. Minutes passed. I assumed she would ignore it. But suddenly the notification sound chimed. A reply. My heart beat faster as I opened the message. Emily's response was short, but it changed everything. If you're talking about Daniel Brooks, I have proof. The message from Emily stayed on my screen for a few seconds before I fully processed what it meant. If you're talking about Daniel Brooks, I have proof. My pulse quickened. I typed back immediately. Yes, that's exactly who I'm talking about. For a moment there was no response. Then another message appeared. Give me a second. A few seconds later, a file notification popped up. Then another, and another. Emily had sent a folder. My heart pounded as I opened the first document. Inside were screenshots of late-night messages from Daniel Brooks. Messages that were clearly not professional. He had written things no senior director should ever say to someone who worked under him. The tone was familiar too, friendly at first, then slowly suggestive, then unmistakably inappropriate. I opened the second file. It was a copy of an HR complaint Emily had filed 2 years earlier. The document described the same pattern Sarah had experienced: subtle touching, suggestive comments, and promises of career advancement in exchange for cooperation. My jaw tightened. The third file was the worst. It showed an internal email chain between HR managers discussing the complaint. Instead of investigating properly, they had quietly transferred Emily to another department. When she refused, she was pressured to resign. They hadn't solved the problem. They had buried it. I leaned back in my chair, anger turning into something colder and more focused. Daniel Brooks believed his position protected him. The company believed silence would keep their reputation clean. But tonight that silence was about to end. I spent the next hour organizing everything. Emily's evidence, the HR documents, the messages. Every piece was placed neatly into a single folder. Then I prepared 3 emails. The first went to the company's board of directors through their anonymous ethics reporting system. The second went directly to the corporate compliance department. The third took a little more thought. Eventually, I found a journalist known for investigating workplace misconduct in large companies. If the company tried to hide the evidence again, someone outside would make sure the story didn't disappear. At exactly 1:17 a.m., I attached the files. Then I clicked send. The room fell quiet again. For the first time that night, I closed my laptop. By morning, Daniel Brooks's world had begun to crumble. By noon, the company released a short public statement announcing that he had been placed on indefinite administrative leave while an investigation took place. And by evening, his career, the one built on intimidation and silence, was finished. Sarah never had to face him again. And the man who thought he could get away with everything learned something too late. Power only lasts until someone decides to expose the truth.